Does that make sound
Hello?
up on top?
Hello? You guys
No.
got us now?
No, this is the one.
Yeah, no, we're...
This is the one you want sound on. It needs to be all audio running up there. We're working on the sound. Just make some things here. This is what happens when you have your guy soundboard. Soundboard's on.
What's that one right above it? NDI source.
NDI,
Click that. It's go down, right there. That red.
NDI source. We're reading all kinds of stuff. We can hear ourselves right now. Yeah, got it. We can't hear you either. Fuck this show. Hey, yeah, we're live on the Instagrams. This is the best. Yeah, dude, throw some Tech Talk Taco Tuesdays. Yeah, we're gonna do it all. Let's see if I can.
Better do
Audio output capture. No, we can't. We can't reboot. This is the thing that sound works.
You got us now?
It's working now. You can continue.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let's start over. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, number 207. Live from Pahrump.
It works on what platform?
Nevada.
Hold on a second. Let me check on. I'm going to check
Are
on
we
this
on
one to make sure.
Facebook? You hearing us?
I'm going to check to see.
Somebody text. Type it in on the show.
There we go. It's working again.
Okay. That would have been
a good show.
We might have got more followers.
Our best show
after
ever.
2 hours of just watching us here looking like fools. You know, those are women's glasses, by the way. And I think.
Are you sure?
Let's get an opinion from the audience. Do the earpieces? What do you call these on the frame? Do those go outside the headgear or inside like Jimmy's? Let's have a vote.
Victor's probably our number one guy. Okay, well, I was answering a question. We started the show late. The sound didn't work. And I'm going to put my headphones on just to make sure. Like, that's really weird.
There's nothing weird about it.
Like, why did the sound just all of a sudden start? It's still not reading.
No, it's that thing you clicked.
Well,
flip down, flip up. It'll read.
It's not registering at all. So here's how you do a podcast. You should just go to a Mexican restaurant and then just talk to the people at the bar.
On your phone.
Inside the beanie.
Inside the beanie.
It's good in Facebook. So is it different? Is it different on the...
I think it's outside, but Victor would know.
Well,
he knows that the Orange County Crackers wear Vans. And what else was it, Victor? We were texting before the show.
Yeah. Flat brim hat. So, anyways, cheers. Jorge, you know the signs for Tech Talk, eh?
Need more fingers.
You do it 4 times.
Is that like pie?
Yeah, you just do it 4 times. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, Holmes. So, hey, before we came live, we were answering on the
grams.
The grams. Yeah, we were answering how to low your CRF 450. We said that's no good. It's a performance bike. I couldn't even pronounce the guy's name. So anyways, it's working on YouTube as well. Thanks, Brenda. Good thing that I wonder why it was shut down, but it's not.
It's not doing its regular thing. That mic two's buzzing across.
It's like a monitor kind of thing. Anyways, welcome to the show. You know what? I'm gonna clip all that crap out that we just did.
No.
When I edit it down.
People like it when we're fools.
Fool. Are you dope, fool? Dope is. George has been practicing his cholo whistle all day for this show. And if you're out trick or treating, then you're missing a dope show, fool. We don't have any kids, so we don't have to worry about the trick or treating. Hey, this show would not be possible without the help of a couple of our sponsors. Do you want to read them off, George, so I can take a sip of this OE?
It says Tech Talk Taco Tuesday 205, but it's 207. Yamaha, Taco Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC, Trail Tech, Fasst Company. Somebody got erased. Somebody didn't pay their bill. Then we go on to Bulletproof Designs and Double Take Mirrors. Don't forget to do your shopping on Amazon or Rocky Mountain Motorcycle and ATV by clicking through the links on the support dirt bike. It doesn't cost you anything. You still go in there and you get in your account, and Jimmy gets a little kickback, a little shill money from them.
Or I can buy more Old English, hey? Yeah. So, some other things. The Kurt Caselli Ride Day is on December 2nd. So if you're making plans, that's a good foundation to support. It'll be at Paula Fox Raceway. So Utah Desert Racer, who's right in between, he says, "Are we Cholos or Canadians, eh?"
Oh,
we should go Holmes.
could be Canadians.
Canadians.
Later in the show, we'll transform and identify as Canadians. How'd this Cholo thing come about in the last 2 days? I mean, it was, and you know what? I can just see this day and age, everybody's blasting us. You know, it's like doing what's the blackface thing or something. You know, but what was the conversation we had yesterday about? It came up, and you brought it up, and you said, "No, I grew up with these guys, and this is the kind of stuff they."
I was
did,
holding up the wall, you know,
and we were whistling. You said, "What?"
Yeah, I think we were whistling at the cat.
Maybe
we were trying to whistle at the cat, and I'm like,
no, I was just sitting there with my arms crossed,
oh,
looking at you with a blank stare, which I do a lot of. And he says, "Oh, you look like some cholo over there. You know, you're going to do your whistle. You know, this is how these guys stand." We started doing the Google searches.
And I was being complimentary when I said cholo.
Right, exactly. It wasn't any kind of gig or nothing.
It was a pretty solid. It was a pretty solid blank stare.
And you kind of squatted down and leaned against a building.
Yeah,
said, these guys sit around like that, like they're in the prison yard in the corner or something. But no, it was all good. You know. I want to bring those days back.
It's Halloween. We can do this.
I want to bring those days back when you can make fun at any culture, any belief system, or anything.
Well,
when it's not mean-spirited, and it's all in fun, and everybody's doing it back and forth.
We're a motorcycle show. We talk about motorcycle and motorcycle-related
I know, but that's my political rant.
Well, we don't. It wasn't even political. It's just life skills. So sometimes we can actually talk about life skills on this show, which is really strange. But because we have some experiences,
like Jimmy the plumber.
I was a plumber today.
Mm-hmm.
I was a plumber, but works underneath the mobile home. What's that? That's I maybe I learned about that with my time in the pen. That was the skills they taught me.
It could be.
So, but when you I sort of lost my train of thought, but I still have it. We grew up in a time when if you did something stupid, your friends, your best friends, your mentors ridiculed you. They made you know how dumb or stupid it was. And they picked on you. And they threw out all kinds of slurs and names and bad things.
And the more you tried to act like it wasn't stupid, the more you got picked on.
The more you got it.
You laughed at yourself and said, "Yeah, that was pretty stupid."
Yeah,
and everybody moved on.
Yeah, exactly. You moved on, but it was like they wouldn't do that to you if they didn't like you, because they needed to push buttons. They needed to poke at you and push buttons, and it worked for me at least. I mean,
well, questionably, but yeah.
So. Yeah, life skills here on the YouTubes. But anyways,
now we just lost 4 of our 8 followers or something. Where do you see the numbers up there?
They said Rex Staten was a plumber. He was a boxer too, by the way. And you did not want to.
Oh, wait. Flying Brian is back. Hold on. Flying Brian. So that is Brian Love up in Montana. I hope you don't mind me releasing that, because I know you're kind of quasi-witness protection. So last I heard, Flying Brian got all pissed because you were saying this name, Flying Brian, or no, Brian Love knows you or something. I'm going, put it in context. So then I go back and I go, yeah, I don't know. And my buddy that knows Brian says, yeah, Brian's all pissed. He's done with Tech Talk. So I'm glad he's back. Because I didn't know who he was. And I said, well, I didn't have the screen. I couldn't read. I'd know that. I know Flying Brian. I didn't know Brian Love.
What did I do to offend him? And maybe I can push back
I don't know.
A little bit harder.
We got to, I don't know. But I'm glad you're back, Brian.
Anyway, hey, thanks everybody for joining in, watching us live. If you're listening to this in the podcast format, we are a stupid show that's on Facebook and YouTube on Tuesday nights. We will go up against anything. Presidential debates, Halloween, we don't care. We'll take you on and we're the most important motorcycle show on the YouTubes or the Facebooks or in a podcast format, because we will tell you how to fix your motorcycle or motorcycle product related question. We don't have any skin in the game other than our reputations. And look at the way we dressed.
I mean, there's no place for him to go but up. So big news coming later about the whole Rooster Endo. We're going to talk about Rooster Endo later.
Rooster Endo.
Might have a special guest on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some Rooster Endo.
I know a lot of you guys have been waiting to see what
Victor
happens.
wants to know if we're drinking Pruno. No, we'd like to save that for the special occasions.
Yeah, but we were, the problem was we couldn't do the Pruno in the other house because there's no water in the toilet to brew it in, because the water system went out, and Jim's been under there working on that for a couple of days.
It was a rough couple of days, my friends. It was a long Rebel rally.
Yep, good one,
long one. Came back, had to get ready for a school. Had a good school this weekend. Taught a lot of people some awesome dirt biking skills, and now
you might be able to win some Baja beef jerky tonight too. Depending on what door you pick.
Right. Now that we're saving all those, don't give all the ideas away at once.
No, I'm just priming them.
Right.
We'll talk about it later, or maybe not.
Hey, so we're going to go to, Victor's lit with all of his comments right now. We're going to go straight to our questions, because we had a question from Dave Donnelly that he's been trying to get asked for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, it's even in our list twice for today.
And we're going to, get to the questions that are popping up in the chat as well. I'm pretty sure I can scroll back through those things. Oh man, it's so difficult here. Too many buttons. I'm lucky I got the sound working, or I'd still be panicked. So what does Dave Donnelly want to know?
He wants to ask about explain the high speed and low speed compression settings. How do they interact, and what's a good baseline setting, which I think you've gotten. Baseline settings, you've talked about that.
We've definitely answered this question before. Okay, here, I Fool, Tube versus Moose. We're going to get to that. And what's your thoughts on the Climb F3? David Creek, Climb, a sponsor of the show. I will get to those questions on the Instagrams before I hang up on you. But here's the high and low speed. So it's generally talking about a shock, unless you have really factory forks. You're not going to have that in the front fork. But high speed compression and low speed compression. Low speed is what most shocks have. If you have a clicker on your shock, it adjusts the low speed damping force in that shock. A typical shock has low speed compression, rebound dampening, and then most modern bikes these days have high speed compression as well as spring preload. So these are all the different things you can do. But he's asking the difference between high speed compression and low speed compression. And at the end of the show 206, I kind of just quickly went over, and what I said is it has to do with shaft speed, not the speed of the bike. And so many people think it has to do with the speed of the bike. It has nothing to do with the speed of the bike. It's all to do with how quickly the shock is moving. The shock shaft is moving inside there. And when it's moving slow, it's not moving fast enough to affect the high speed compression. And so it's using the low speed adjuster, and the shims the shims inside of the shock are kind of always working, but they're more of what we would call like mid speed. And then when a lot of them collapse, when it moves very quickly, like it hits something very quick, it collapses all those. It's flowing so much that the low speed adjuster is pretty much maxed out. It's flowing the maximum. And then it works into this high speed. And sometimes they build that into, even on the stack, the shim stack as well, it's built into there somewhat. But there's an adjuster that when all of a sudden all this fluid tries to move, all the shock fluid tries to move quickly, this is the only avenue it has. And you can adjust essentially the preload on that adjuster to make it either flow more or less. So
are they totally independent? If you adjust a lot of high speed, will it affect your low speed adjustment?
It depends on the way that the shock is set up, and this is the internal valving. But generally, the high speed doesn't really affect the low speed so much. But the low speed, having a very open low speed adjuster, can make the high speed less effective. In other words, it won't push enough fluid to affect the high speed.
So it's slowing it down at the low speed before it gets to the high speed.
If you crank your low speed in a lot, that starts locking out. It works into the mid speed. So when the shock starts moving quickly, I mean, when it moves really quick, it just goes straight into high speed. It basically plugs everything up, and then that's the only avenue.
Do those shims actually physically move and jam together like that?
Yeah.
So it closes off one option and pushes it to another.
Correct. They bend and flex, and it controls the flow of the oil. Is what happens inside of the shock body. So in theory, that's how it works. What you feel is something completely different. And somebody says, Curly Stoker says, I feel like I'm watching an episode of WWE. Hulk Hogan there with you. Huh. Jorge Hulk Hogan? Yeah.
Yeah, he's washed up too. And Victor Andrade, I think earlier, said he has an issue with shaft speed that he wants to discuss. So
he wants to discuss
maybe we should have him call in another show on that.
Yeah, we'll work on the other show. But, okay, so think of high-speed compression more about the ride height, which is really strange. So you know how you set your sag on your shock, your spring preload on your sag. Well, that's when the bike's not moving. But the funny thing about high-speed compression is when you add high-speed compression, it causes the bike to ride a little bit higher in the stroke almost all the time. And then less will let it ride a little bit lower in the stroke. And I think that's because the shock is actually doing a lot of high-speed movement.
So putting in a lot of high-speed compression might make it softer for the most part.
High speed compression, because it will kind of try to hold it high, up higher in the stroke. It could, but I've never really used it that way. I mean, I remember a couple times when we did try that to get it to hold up in the stroke a little bit more. But it also, there's a point where you cross this threshold where it just gets really harsh, where all of a sudden the shock just it is like when you have too much rebound, it packs. It holds it down. Too much high-speed compression can cause it to hold extended too high, and then it gets literally just way too stiff. And then the funny thing about that is then you can go through like a nice roller, and your shock will just blow right through the stroke. Because that's low speed. That's a low speed type of a thing. But I use it to adjust the kind of the ride height. If I want the rear end of the bike up a little bit higher, I use high speed to hold it up, and then if I want it to be a little bit lower, I use it to bring it back down. I don't really use it to adjust like how the shock kind of performs. I use low speed for more of, okay, I want it stiffer, I want it softer.
So part of his question also was baseline settings. Start in the middle somewhere and go all the way one way and then all the way back the other way.
So start with the manufacturer, wherever they have it, and generally it's someplace in the middle. A quarter turn is a lot on a high-speed compression adjuster, in my experience. So if you want to experience, go whatever stock is, turn it a half turn more, ride it, and then turn it, another half turn the opposite direction, so a full turn out. And go, so if you want to experience it, but do the exact same thing, like hit the exact same set of bumps or whatever, so you're comfortable with it, or ride the same section of trail, and that's how you would feel it for yourself. But I usually do it an eighth of a turn, and some of them have clicks, but a lot of them it's just a big nut. You're just preloading a spring inside there, so do that. So, anyways.
So, you know how I adjust my preload? Because you saw me. I just put on a shock on my bike, and I was adjusting all there.
Yeah, you bounced it up and down and said, what do you think?
Yeah, Jimmy's across the shop changing tires on his knees, and I pull up and down on the back of my fender, and he says, I think that's a little tight. You better loosen it up about a turn or so. I loosen it up a turn, and I look at it. Then we're fine.
Did you measure it?
Yeah, I looked at it, and I said, that's about 3/4 of an inch.
You really should.
I didn't need to. You were there.
You should have pulled out a tape measure and measured it, because when you showed it to me at first, it was about a half inch of free sag, and then I never saw it after that. But it was too much, so I said, take a turn out of the shock spring.
Yeah, well.
That's the right. Holmes.
I should measure it. but then the real world.
You got to hold the chin up, eh?
No, that's not good. Yeah.
Chin up.
Which one for me?
Okay.
That's what this collar does. I can tuck 3 of them down in the collar and they'll hold them tight down.
Okay, so Climb F3 helmet. That's my go-to helmet. That's my favorite helmet. Climb is a sponsor of this show, but I will tell you, and the Climb helmet that I use is the F3 ECE, not the DOT one, because it's lighter and it fits better. I don't know why.
Tube versus mousse on the grams. I think that's been answered a bunch, but anyway.
Tube versus...
Jim and I had this debate the other day. You know, we were talking, because he's a mousse guy. He likes the mousse thing, and basically he said he doesn't like to carry all the stuff to change a tube. And I said, doesn't bother me to carry that stuff to change a tube, really. Or to ride home on a flat doesn't bother me a lot.
That bothers my... I hate losing my ride to a flat, you know, and will I carry the stuff? It depends on where I'm going, you know.
And usually I'm glad to end my ride however it ends, so I'm happy to ride home on a flat tire.
Excusatron. There we go. So that's the
but tube versus mousse.
Yeah, it's you know, it's expensive. You know, the mousse is expensive.
Not Jim's.
To
he gets like 5,000 miles out of a mousse. What'd you get out of that one?
4,500 out of a front mousse, and he put it back.
No, back mousse, wasn't it?
No, it was front. 4,500 miles out of a. You're using Michelin. Michelin mousse. Yeah, you ran a Michelin. 4,500. Just he's a casual dual sport / adventure rider on a KTM 500 with a big tank, and yeah, he
goes down the road 60, 70 miles an hour too.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
you don't regulate. You don't have a regulator, so you can only go 45 miles an hour on the pavement. Whatever speed you need to go.
No,
Right.
but on the other hand, you got this instrumentation on there, so you get scared because you see it drops to 9 volts, and you don't want to turn off your bike. I don't have that problem because I don't know how many volts it's got.
Yeah, see, Victor comes from the other side where he says tubes feel better somehow, and that's to his wallet, eh?
I just haven't had that many failures with tubes, and I just don't ride to that degree where I'm, shoving it into the rocks.
Yeah, so you can get a lot of miles, but if you ride hard, you can beat them up and you can be done with them in 500 miles if you do it right. You can go to either extent on the tube versus mousse, but it's generally for most people it's a cost issue to start with.
I think I averaged out
And then
mileage, and I came up with it averaged out to be like 30 miles
okay.
per hour.
So
32 miles per hour.
he rides them at an average of 32 miles per hour on his thing. But for most people, when they do this, it's like I said, how important is it that you don't have a tube related problem? And if you're spending a lot of money to go to a race or spending a lot of money to go on a special ride where you don't want to have it, maybe at that point it's definitely worth it. I run a little bit of everything. I have a lot of different stuff, and frankly, I don't care that much unless it's real important that I don't have a failure. Then I make sure that I have mousse on the bike, and I have mousse that's ready to go high speed, like I'll call it rally ready. So if we do rally training and stuff where I can't have a failure, I have ones they're brand new, they're in stiff tires, they're ready to go. And then I have trail riding mousse that are rally ones that have been used 2 or 3 times that are now too soft, like Jim was talking about. And maybe they're even cut and I put extra chunks inside of there to stiffen it up. And I use a lot of different ones. I prefer the Nitro Mousse. Those are the ones I have the most experience with. And if I were going to buy one, that's what I would buy. I'd get the Nitro Mousse because I know that it fits in the tires that I run, the Kendas. And I would go there, and I know exactly how much time it's not time, it's really the feel when they start, fading. I know when it goes, okay, it's done being a rally mousse. Now it's a trail riding mousse. And the trail riding mousse I pretty much run until, like Jim experienced, it doesn't hold the tire on the bead anymore. It's gone from feeling like, it starts out at like 16 PSI, kind of works its way down to 13, 14, stays there for a while when it's in a tight, tire. Then it starts going down to like 11, and then that's time for trail riding mousse. So It's that. So
Victor's got a comment up there. We don't have to read it back, but only Victor would know there's a market for what he's searching for there on Facebook Marketplace, right?
what is
I had no idea there was a market for used pleasure devices there, Victor. He's going to line his tire with that and try it and see if it's more pleasurable ride.
And Dave Donnelly wants to know, so in mousses, is the Michelin better for long rides? So here's what I've learned from using all the different mousses, and there's some new ones that are showing up. There's all different things. The person that installs the mousse determines how long the mousse will last. That's 95% of the time. It's the person that installs it. Do they have the right technique? Are they putting the right lube in there? Are they matching the right mousse to the tire? All this stuff. That's going to make about 95% of the determination. And then the second thing is you need to know how hard you're riding. If you're pounding, Baja hoops and stuff like that, your life is going to be your mousse life is going to be a lot different than what Jim has. So it's those two things. And when somebody says, I don't use this mousse for that reason, I always say, well, what bad experiences did you have? And then I start asking them about when they installed it. And they go, the guy at the shop installed it. I'm like, well, good. He didn't put enough lube in there, or he didn't do a very good job matching the mousse to the thing. And then now you've had a bad experience, or your buddy had a bad experience. You watched smoke come out of their tire because they put too small of a mousse. Or more often than not, the guy installing it broke the bead on the tire, and the tire popped off, and they blamed the mousse, even though it was a broken bead. So this is the common sense, no bullshit answer you get on this show. Is there a better brand? I'm completely convinced that out of all the ones that I've used, Michelin and Nitro Mousse are the two best. And can I say one is better than the other? No, I have no proof that one is better than the other. And like I said, I've used both of them. I've had both of them fail at different times. Done all different kinds of things. And you can ask everybody, and you might as well ask them. Oh, and by the way, tell me what's your favorite 2-stroke oil and what motor I should run in my 4-stroke, and the information about the mousse, and then judge.
Do you need to shut them off now? The grams?
Oh yeah, we need to shut them off and take a.
You only get so much of that, right?
Yeah. Anyways, thanks everybody for joining on the Instagrams to make sure we didn't miss any questions. A lot of people have long ass names on the Instagrams, but they don't pay attention for very long. And so Lo Jamarito, that's whose moose question we answered there. So with that, we'll see you out in the trail. I'm hanging up on you and now. And what's next? What's our next question? There was another one I highlighted. It was up there.
Well, you had some talking points here.
Okay.
Testing WR450F countershocks, Scott's
things
pads,
we're testing. Huh?
WRF maps, Touratech suspension. Okay, those are things you're testing. More about that later.
No, we can talk about that now as soon as I sneeze again.
I gave him the COVID. I showed up last week.
I might be allergic
with
to the OE.
Yeah.
I should have poured some on the ground for my homies, but I don't want to pour it on the carpet.
Yeah, you know, while you're drinking, I'll bring something out here. You've all heard about, probably wondered about, but it's a gold medal here, won by somebody not Jimmy, sitting in front of you. Look how that dwarfs these little. What are those? The International House of
I knew
Pancakes
I was allergic
medal?
to something. That fake.
That's a
that
gold
fake
medal. United States Police.
If you're watching, if you're listening
Fire
to this,
and Police Championship.
If you're listening to this and you're just disgusted by me sneezing and you wonder if COVID can go through the radio, it can't. But George just he's disgracing my studio right now by posting his gold medal that he won. Let's see if I can get you on the. I don't know if a George camera works better for this one. If I push the wrong button, I'll shut the whole damn show down. Is the problem? I got to be really careful about this.
Look at how that dwarfs those.
If you
ISD what? What were those? Did you even have to work very hard to get those?
Yeah, ISDE.
So that was actually a double medal finish. because not only did I finish first in that class, I finished last in that class.
First and last.
Yes.
Oh, you were the only person in that class.
Yeah,
But
so
they got-
I
they
am
still-
a
they
medal
s-
holder. I'll put that in my bio. I expect it on your school site for that to be on my bio.
Oh, we can probably update
And while we're on the topic of George's medals, not to take over the show, I have another one here
that. I wasn't prepared for any of this. Hold on, I better drink it.
from, well, you were drinking. That's why I went into this. Gene Woods, Racing Experience winner.
Oh,
This is another gold medal. I've got race results here. Yeah, that'll have Jimmy just read.
read
Go
the
ahead and
order.
read. Go ahead and read those. This was, hold on, first place. Wait, ring.
Can't we just get to the questions here? Hold on a second.
Anyway.
I thought I had headphones.
Yeah, there's two race results here. Yeah, you can read those two race results there, Jimmy.
Okay, hold on.
I'll just find another place to put this up while you're reading those race results.
Okay, people wonder about this show sometimes, I think. Let's see. Heather Lewis? Wait, I gotta pull the. Wait, where? Oh, here we go. George Justice, Jimmy Lewis, Eric Muxlow,
Yeah, I think that's what
Kerry
order that is.
Justice. Yeah. Yep. But I think I have the fastest lap time though, don't I?
Well, that might have been in that race. I believe I beat you on strategy, but I did beat you nonetheless.
Okay, and we're
And
looking
then
at the second sheet here.
one.
George Justice, Erica Muxlow, Jimmy Lewis, Kerry Justice. So
Okay.
all that proves is your wife isn't a very good driver.
Well, no, she is a good driver. She just wasn't into the go-kart. Barney Racing. Hello, Jimmy.
Hi.
I'm a listener of your Tech Talk Taco Tuesday and hear your sponsored plug for Taco Moto. Do you have a discount for them? Question mark. Thank you in advance and for the good podcasts. Hope this one's included in that.
Thank you for that. Every once in a while, I have certain discounts. You can email me about that if you can figure out my email, which is a super top secret. But at this moment, no. But think about this, like Taco Moto actually is bringing you this show. They're one of the sponsors that are bringing you this show. So technically, because you're getting information from this show, that should constitute a discount on the stuff they're getting, because there's other shops that are not supporting this show, and you go there after you learn something here, and then you're not going to get the good service that you're going to get at Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. And speaking of Taco Moto, I'm going to get Mike Spurgeon from Taco Moto onto this show very soon.
While you work on that, one way you can get a discount from Taco Moto is submit a Rooster Endo submission and possibly win that. Or be shamed, on this show live for the motorcycle submission.
Well, yeah, we have a segment called Rooster Endo that we do. We used to do it every show, and then it was getting difficult because the submissions were coming from all different directions, and then the submissions were going to the guy who used to be here, guy who's not here anymore, guy.
He got busy.
Yeah, and so we have no more.
Some of those may have dropped off the radar through other email channels. But
Right.
Nonetheless, keep submitting them until you see them. Try to make an effort to be here live. Maybe that'll be a requirement to win.
I got a couple of submissions, and I was thinking that we could work them into the show. So maybe at the end of the show, we might be able to pull some out of nowhere.
Did you just hang up on him?
Yeah, I did, but I told him to call in. Here we go. Call in. There we go. And then I can plug him into the thing when he calls. It's all part of the process here, George. It's a professional show. Hold on. Hey, do you know about my thing?
Will we be able to? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Taco Mike.
Will we be able to hear him?
Yeah, we'll be able to hear him. Can you hear him?
Mike.
What's up, Senor Lewis?
Senor Lewis, I'm Jaime tonight.
Hey, are we before? Is this before or after?
You're
the
live, dude.
tequila session.
We haven't. There's been no tequila
Old
consumed
English 800
on this show. Only Old English that Jim ran down to the corner market, and I requested a 40 ouncer, by the way, just to keep it real. and he came back with the cans. But
220s.
he has. I could actually technically consume 44 ounces of this stuff that I should be pouring on the ground for my homies, but I'm actually putting it in my throat. But anyways, Mike, welcome to the
You
show.
can technically do 44. You have a doctor's note for 44. I love it.
So, hey, good to talk to you. I wanted to bring you on the show because you are probably, because you're so engaged and this is your day-to-day job. I only do this like once a week when I'm not being a plumber. You can help us answer some of these questions on the show tonight as well.
Yeah, I've got as many, free, partially correct answers as anybody else. So why not?
And you're not being bombarded with trick-or-treaters at the moment.
No, we live out in the rural part of Vegas, and it's horses and pigs and goats, and there are no trick-or-treaters out here.
Okay, and your kids, did you send them out with the wife on the trick-or-treat tour?
Yeah, my son is off at a Halloween party, goofing off with his friends, with his homies. So I'm just here, and I can talk motorcycle as I want, as long as I want.
Oh, that's good.
All right, let's have a question. Silverhill 377 subscribed to you 3 months ago. 6 days ago, he says, I'm here almost every Tuesday. Just a suggestion, maybe you should consider adding the weekly topics in the title so the motorcycle enthusiasts will check out your channel more often. Keep up the good work. But if you did that, then people wouldn't listen to them all to try and find some nugget of information.
I kind of agree with that person. That we should. So should we put what we're going to talk about before the show, or is he asking for us to put the things we talked about like when we upload the show afterwards?
I would guess afterwards. So if you're searching through them, you go, yeah, I want to look at that, and I'll punch into it. But maybe both. I don't know. Mike's more of a internet's guy. What's his opinion?
Hey, Mike KMET says Taco Moto adds value by no BS advice.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice of them to say that. Hopefully it's true.
You're the boss. You know it's true.
Hey, I got a
Hopefully
question.
It's mostly true.
I got a question, Mike, and I haven't searched lately, but I did a while ago looking on your site. Those little turn signals that were LEDs on the end of a little spring. Remember those? Do they still make those?
I do.
You got them?
Yes, that's a good story. Yeah, it's an interesting story with that. The guy who started that a couple of years ago, he was not the original. So the last guy who operated that was that original idea and concept from fella, and this most recent owner ran it for a couple of years, made those. Those were
Man, you're
tell you the name of it.
Jumping in and
Flew out of my brain. Am I jumping out? Can you
got
hear
good
me okay?
cell there? Jumped in and out a little. I don't know if it's ours or yours, but keep going.
It could be ours.
Keep going.
I'm on the Wi-Fi at my house. It looks pretty strong. It seems like I should be getting good.
It'd be no different than this whole show.
It's the shit show into this. So keep going. Let's try it.
You're all getting what you pay for when you watch this, right? So
Yeah.
I like to pronounce that all the time.
You're not, but go ahead with the signals.
yeah, so that guy, he operated for a couple of years, and it was a side business. He did it out of his garage, and he did the injection molding, plastic molding in his garage. Talk about trapping a business. Operated it until he just kind of needed to spend more time on his primary job. And I don't know that it made him much money, but, and I looked at it and looked at maybe buying it and operating it and folding it in our business, and ultimately took a pass on it. And then happily, Daryl from Cyclops is the new owner and has big plans for it. There's no product available, but I predict Daryl will probably release something soon, and I'll be supporting him with it, and we'll be stocking them on the site when they are eventually available. So that's kind of the rundown on what's up with those signals.
Okay, well, thanks. I'll be looking for them.
Cool. Yeah, Daryl's a good guy. I've known him for a long time, and when we were always back in the days, he would always supply lights whenever we did kind of night riding stuff and things, and Yeah, I ran into him. He was up. I think he was up at Tour Tech. He actually supported some of the little contesty things that we did. Some of the games we played on motorcycles up there. So
They started out doing those like H1 replacement bulbs or something, didn't they?
yeah, they had
Just a little.
yeah they had
or
that
H-
and went
Cove.
into HID and LED.
Yeah.
They've been in the light game for definitely a long time. And Daryl's a good guy.
Yeah, Daryl's great. He was at the KTM rally last week, and he has bought skiing. So if you guys are familiar with skiing dimmers, Daryl recently acquired that. So he's building up a nice little base of components.
That's a dimmer, so that'll actually dim the LED light, correct?
Yeah, so that's a pulse width dimmer, and so you can program that so you can between effective 0 and 100% anywhere in between. It's a great little component.
Cool. You done any more movement on your electrical components kits? All pre-made up. You done anything with that?
We have a little schedule, a little menu of what's going to be included in it, and they don't exist yet, but it exists on paper, and so
Good.
look for that soon. We typically have a list of things we're working on that's maybe 20 or 30 or 40 different ideas and products, and it's just that endless cycle of that's going to be the next thing I work on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know about the next thing you work on. I was going to try to make this show better, and then I had
207 episodes in.
yeah. Well, but then I ended up underneath the house, and it's really hard to get on over the heater, the big heater tube, and then you have to go to this place where you have to go under the shitter line, the black stuff, and you barely fit. I need to start losing weight just so I can be a better plumber.
And then there's a tarantula the size of your hand walking outside once he crawls out of there. But
That's no problem. This is my buddy.
Jimmy, dude, look, you can't get any better, and so the show, because of you, is as good as it can be. Anybody who detracts or says otherwise, there's other shows for them.
Okay, so you started the EXE and FE. What's that website that we broadcast to on the Facebooks?
Yeah, on the interwebs, it's EXC Tech Talk. Hell, I don't even know what it's called.
That's good. I'm not the only one. So you started that, and it's funny because it's done the life of like an internet forum or just a thing where it's a great place to go to get advice, and then everybody finds out about it, and then you have people that are jokers, and then people that are really smart, and then people that are trying to sell something, and people that have really good advice. It's a mix. It's a big mix, and it kind of gets a little crowded, the space, but it's still really good. But there was a post there a couple weeks ago that caught my eye. It was the most influential people on the KTM 500 EXE.
Yeah.
Most influential people, and strangely enough, you were not listed on there. You were not included as a
I
vote.
thought I saw him on there.
No, you weren't. You were not a person that you could vote for. Were you?
Well, because so I aggressively moderated that, and I deleted. So this was not.
Oh, you deleted. So you deleted your
He
name.
manipulated the data.
You deleted
Yeah.
your.
So you were
Yeah.
Dominion.
Yeah, yeah. So every time somebody would throw up, anything related to me, I would delete it.
Okay,
because
so-
it wasn't interested in what
right,
anybody's
right.
opinion was.
I
Right.
See
get
how
that.
these things happen?
So you took out. So anytime somebody put Moto or Mike Spurgeon, you deleted it.
Instantly.
Okay,
Yep.
but
I caught it on there once
my name,
before he got
my,
to it.
my name was up there, and I'm still
Well, he
pretty.
deleted you.
I'm still. Oh, I got deleted. I was just.
No, you're not deleted.
I was pretty amazed that I got 0%.
No, you got more than that. I voted for you. There were others. In fact, I'm looking right now. Let me.
Okay, check.
Here, I opened it up.
You got
Come on.
control
I
alt
was
deleted.
I was pretty proud of that 0%. I'm like, I'm holding strong. I'm like at least I'm consistent. I like consistency.
Well, I think that people in that and I think it's a damn shame that you didn't have the most votes. You should have.
No,
you got mine.
It's no. I don't have feelings about this because this is like when I started talking, when I said like I like that group and I like that forum, but then you see where it kind of grows, and people have their attention spans are in different places. Their influences are in different places. They see different things. Even though we broadcast to that channel once a week with good advice, and a lot of times I post up there, I'm like, hey, if you have any questions, which is the whole purpose of that forum, here's a great place where you can ask them, and we rarely get them. So I'm picking on the forum right now, by the way.
I see.
But I was proud of my 0%. I like to hold that. And this is a guy who show Tech Talk Taco Tuesday brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha makes the YZ, the awesome YZ 450, the incredible YZ 125, my favorite 125 by far and away. I need to get a new one, actually. All these Yamahas, but they sponsor the show. And what bike did Jimmy Lewis pick as the best bike ever? KTM 500. And nobody threw back some love for that. Like, I thought that group would have embraced me.
Last year or so, since you've been riding your Tenere, people have kind of thrown you aside on the KTM thing. But you do love that bike.
The Tenere?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I tried to get Jim. I'm trying to get Jim to switch over here. I tried to force him to ride my Tenere. The Tenere Yamaha makes the Tenere the best adventure bike ever. Known to man. So what am I at? 2% maybe, Mike?
No, you're at 1%, but it's 5 votes. you're in the 1%er.
Oh, if it goes up tomorrow, just delete the whole thread. Just I'd rather just live at the bottom, the unknown. I'm saying, my name was so far.
I mean,
down
look
the
at
list.
this. Look at these clowns up here. We're struggling to keep his relevance. You know, I mean, it happens.
I've ordered the general.
Facebook user, you got to log on through your own Facebook account, not the link. I voted first for you, but didn't know anyone else on the list.
Oh boy,
who's Facebook?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Here's
the general public. These are people who think Taco Bell and then Pizza Hut are often rated as like the best in their classes in restaurants. So you just can't trust the general public. But the people who know,
they don't want to give away their awesome source of KTM influence. But what?
Okay, we're
not
done.
See
if
we're
we
not
can get back.
Done.
Let's throw some chains next to the rail so we can drive the wheels back up onto the tracks.
We're not done talking about me yet.
Okay.
So, hey, Mike, are you playing with all your spare change right now?
You know what I'm doing, dude? I am in my I'm in the closet and I'm getting rid of like some clothes. I'm sending some clothes to the thrift store.
We could have a guess.
And it's hangers, man. It's hangers.
I want to go use the tool inside the garage and play What's That Sound? I was on another show that I like.
Or what you could do is you could say, get your ratchet, your cordless ratcheting impact driver, and we can put it on a bolt, and you can squeeze it, and you can hear the hammers, and we'll say, name that torque, because that's about your torque, how you torque things. It's like 1 click, 3 clicks, 4 clicks.
Oh, like when I do the counter shaft versus when I do the seat bolt.
And then you got to back it up with foot pounds, inch pounds, and Newton meters.
Newton meters.
Torque?
Hey, you know what you could do? There's a show, the guys from Revzilla, I forget what they're called, Spurgeon Dunbar and one other dude, and they have a little segment on their podcast where it's name that engine, and they'll have an engine will idle and rev it up, and then they'll guess it. And they're remarkably good. They are probably 75% on.
Jay Leno did that on his show. He had a garage, and somebody'd start a car, honk the horn, then they'd start it up, and they had a guy standing outside.
There's no such
he's
thing.
Going, man, that's a 4-cylinder. That's this, and they'd narrow it down. And
no such thing as an original idea, and I'm happy
we'll take it.
Happy to steal anything. But here, so back to me and my 0% or 1% vote. Like, I just want to tell all those people that didn't vote for me, I own more KTM 500s than anybody else in that list. Period. Okay, I'm going to drop the mic right now.
I don't know.
Okay.
I bet
Mike, but it's on a boon.
I'll bet you Mike owns more.
No, you don't own more KTM 500s than I do you?
Yeah.
Not even
I don't
close.
know. Hang on. Let's count the numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 right now. I don't know. What's your number?
8.
All right, you got me.
Yeah, got 8.
So are we talking 500s or the 510? Like any bike with the 510?
Oh, if you want to go into like 525,
it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
Higher.
And then I got you cooked, and then if I count the ones that I house here, the other people's bikes, There's a few more, and then basically, I'm in charge of those bikes. Like they ask me like what they should do to these bikes.
By the way, don't house your bike here because it'll be rented to some student. Okay, questions. A lot of these aren't questions. The TTR 230 at Bald Nobby. Subscribed to you 3 years. Wow.
You don't have to read the subscribed.
Why
and
not?
the
How much
many
does it
weeks.
weigh?
He's talking about the
TTR 230.
Well, I'm going to go on YamahaMotor.com right now and find that because I was too busy trying to get that video out that I actually didn't roll it up on my scales. But on a bike like that, you're going to be amazed at how much that thing weighs.
You could have Googled that in the time it took him to address that and get on here, but he wanted to be on here, and you should answer him.
Right.
9 out of 10, Jimmy. How much does it weigh? It weighs 235
hey, Mike,
pounds.
Mike, we're doing a guess. We're going to do a guess right now.
Guess.
And you notice if I had an idea, like if I know something, what do I do? George?
I don't know.
I
Keep talking about it.
no, I tell you the answer.
So, Mike, what do you think a TTR 230 weighs?
Did I hear the answer? Did someone say 230?
I said
we
235. Just guessing. You're guessing.
Oh, you're guessing 235. I think it weighs probably really close to like a CRF 450 RL. So I'm gonna say 286.
Okay.
So I actually Googled it in the time you guys took to answer it, but I was going to say 244 pounds is what I was going to say, and the answer is, George, you saw it up there
I
on the
can't
screen.
read that far.
251 with 2.1 gallons of fuel in it is what I'm told from performancepowersports.com.
So is this like Price is Right? You had to come in the closest, but without going over. So Mike's out.
Yeah, Mike's out. I'm the
Okay.
closest, and you lose as usual.
Okay.
Kind of like that gold medal you hung
Can
up
I
on the
take
wall.
door number 3?
Oh man, Mike, we have some really good ideas for the new and revived Rooster Endo segment.
Yeah, the reconstituted wrist endo. I am sad that it's not been happening because, for me anyway, I mean, I'm biased obviously, but it really is the best segment of the show. It's definitely the most entertaining. Hearing your experts come on and kind of dog up on some of those bikes is.
I think it's better that you say hearing your guests come on. Okay, experts. Come on, Mike. What are you trying to sell here?
Hey, it's
present company included.
right. So we like I said, it's been technological difficulties, like the information streams haven't been unifying where they need to go. But it is coming back. I did get some submissions today. If I can during the break, if I can pull those things in, we'll get it back in. But I am of course you know this because you financially support this. We are pooling up the ones that haven't gone, and we're going to throw that into the pot for the rejuvenated Rooster Endo. In fact, I have this crazy idea, and this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to come down to Takamoto and do a live show down there some Tuesday evening, if you're open on Tuesday evenings.
We'll have all the beverages and pizza and tacos that we need to make this happen.
Right. It just one Holmes. I got to get the voice back. Homie, I want 140 ouncer of OE.
And then you got to get
sound right.
You got you know what you should do?
What?
You should have a Tech Talk Taco Tuesday locals night, and we should go to Gene Woods and we'll do a show and people can race.
Afterwards, that's what we'll do. Afterwards we'll go down to the go-kart experience, and because it's not that far away, and you can try to beat Jimmy Lewis, who had Jimmy Lewis had the fastest lap time in the month of August.
Well, I had paperwork to back mine up.
I do too.
Let's get on with these
Gene
questions.
sent me a screenshot.
Back to the rails. You're going to talk about your
Self more?
racing prowess.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
Taylor C. 4476. Unlike the clay pistons inside the Austrian bikes, I hear Yamaha makes TTR pistons out of concrete. Makes one almost miss the XR 400. Almost.
So this person, who was it? What was the name?
Taylor C. 4476.
So Taylor C. obviously has been a fan for a long time. Is a because somehow they tied together the joke about the clay pistons. Did you hear us joking about the clay pistons and the KTMs, Mike?
I did. I came in about 20, 25 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. I didn't hear that.
And you took all those
That
off.
sounds about right.
No, this was an old show.
This was a long. Oh, it's been going on for a while. But you took all the clay pistons off the shelf after we mentioned that they had those, right?
Did you say clay or clake?
Clay. Yeah, the ones that are made in clay. They're made in probably in like where would be worse than China?
Well, they're fired in Chile.
Adobe? You mean like Adobe? Hey,
Yeah,
do you
Adobe
remember
clay.
do you remember the Saturday Night Live skit years and years ago where they made cars out of Adobe? It was the Adobe car. You have to
No.
Google that,
Chrysler
YouTube
made that, did they? The Adobe?
It's just,
Chrysler Adobe. Yeah.
yeah.
Ricardo
For real.
Montalban. He was
Look
the
that
guy.
up on YouTube. Saturday Night Live, the Adobe car, hilarious skit.
Yeah. So no, it was just at a time when like every KTM two-stroke was just blowing up, every single one, except it wasn't every single one. It was probably the two that happened, and somebody put the pictures on the internet, and everybody reshared it, and everybody just went into a frenzy.
Yes,
and I'm
that's
like,
happens.
and I go, because we were starting to get a lot of questions. I mean, it bleeds, something like that happens and it bleeds and it starts coming in. And we started getting questions about this, and I just said, oh, well, all the KTM pistons, they're making them out of clay now because it's cheaper, kind of in my sarcastic, joking way, and it got some legs. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. Come on. And so this person actually, he started, well, now we know, and this is a fact, that Yamaha pistons are made out of cement, right? Concrete. That's cement, right? Well, actually,
No, cement's what you put in with the gravel to make concrete.
To make concrete. So
Got to have gravel and sand to make concrete. Cement in itself is not nearly strong enough to make a piston, Jimmy.
well, I would like to argue the cement piston versus the Adobe piston, because I think the cement piston would actually be superior, but the concrete one might be because the rocks would stick out and it'd scratch the cylinder.
We use small rocks.
Be a little heavier.
It'd be heavier too.
It self-hones.
KTM's racing with the clay.
The clay's a racing piston.
A little lighter.
Yeah, it self-hones.
Hey, I got one. I got one for you.
The fact that he brought the XR400 in the conversation means this guy's been around for a while. Because I used to say the XR400 was the best bike ever, even though it was the worst bike. But okay, so Mike, explain the piston theory.
Well, so I got one for you. There is a YouTube channel, this Russian guy, he's a mechanic. It's got the number 54 in it. I can't remember exactly. Like maybe it's Garage 54.
Okay.
This Russian guy is a genius, and he has, over the course of his channel, made wooden pistons. He's
Oh.
done all kinds of ridiculous and stupid things, blowing up these little Travants. But fascinating, and I'm sure he's done a cement or a clay piston for sure.
You know what? I've gone down a YouTube rabbit hole and seen. I don't remember what it was. It was something where it scrolled across and it said, "Will a glass piston work?" or whatever the heck he made a piston out of, and it was he made a see-through cylinder so you could actually watch this thing work until it melted itself. But it worked for a little while, and I'm just fascinated by watching combustion, even in this low-tech engine. But yeah, those. I mean, here's the.
Well, Victor says wooden pistons don't work well with a high shaft speed because you get splinters.
Somebody's laughing in my old English 800. Jeez, Holmes.
Hey, a serious
Totally.
question up there. Scroll back.
Scroll back.
Are rim
Okay.
locks necessary if I'm only doing mild off-road riding, like on dirt roads? Thanks. Mike first.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Because if you get a flat on a front and you need to do hard braking, you have a hard braking event, then you just lose all your braking ability because your front tire is going to spin. So yeah, I 100% recommend rim locks on all tube type bike tires in all instances. And then lastly, balance those wheels.
Right. Well, so
Jimmy.
so are they necessary if you're doing mild off-road? No, I'm going to say they're not necessary, but in the event you do get a flat, you're going to wish you had a rim lock, especially on the rear. But like Mike said, even if you're doing mild off-roading and you do decide to use your brakes aggressively, front or rear, it's going to start spinning the tire on the rim or tweak it a little bit, which will cause the valve stem to try to tear out of the tube, these different kinds of things. I don't see the advantage of not having one, which would be a more balanced
Saving
wheel.
2 ounces.
Yeah, well, more balanced wheel. Yeah, I don't. The weight savings I don't even consider, but the out of balance wheel factor of the rim lock and like Mike says balance your wheel. I'm like, don't bother. I'm completely the anti wheel balance guy because the minute you skid, your wheel's out of balance anyways.
Nah,
So
I'm a wheel balance guy.
yeah, so
And I think that a balanced wheel helps with traction and everything.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
intuitively,
right. At higher
but-
speeds, I will agree with you 100%.
when it's spinning, it's bouncing.
Right.
So I don't know. And I find too, if I balance my wheel, essentially I can just change the tires on and off, and it doesn't significantly change the balance. You're balancing for the rim lock and the rim.
You're
mostly.
literally balancing for the rim lock. So are they necessary? No, they're not necessary. Are they recommended? I think highly by all of us. Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, unless you're mild off road means you're never gonna deflate under 32 psi.
Yeah, if you want to run
or
a
something
shit
like
ton of
that.
pressure inside of your tires, then you don't need them. But if you're going to run practical pressure, down 12, 13 psi, your tire has the potential to slip on the rim. So I think
Mike,
rim lock is a good idea.
you mentioned balance first. Talk about you balance everything. You balance it every time you change a wheel. What do you do?
Hey, really quick though, let me interject and say the difference for me is whether it's a tube type tire versus a tubeless, and not tubeless the tubeless system, but like a spoke magnesium type wheel. Those are not necessary because those are really securely beaded into the rim, and then it's very difficult to get those to unbead themselves when flat. But a tube type will come off, the bead will come off the rim quite easily, and that's where you run into problems. And then as far as the balancing go, the reason that we balance all our wheels is particularly because we run mousse almost exclusively, and unless it's balanced, that rim lock will create a hot spot and will degrade that mousse on that spot where the rim weight is. So we always, every time, install a rim lock in the rear. We balance it, and we do not install one in the front, just the rear balanced every time. And I'm just such in the habit of feeling the smoothness of a balanced wheel that if I'm ever on a bike that has an imbalance, the hop, 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 it's just so maddening. I can't take it. So I balance every wheel every single time.
Right.
But I guess, hey, George, to answer back to your question, do I rebalance a rim after I remount a tire? Out of laziness, I typically don't. And then if it does need rebalancing, you'll be able to tell right away.
Right.
And if if I'm not annoyed, then I never go and I never recheck it, if that makes sense.
Are you aware of marks on tires where there's a heavy spot or a light spot or?
Yep.
Yeah, and about 50% of the time I happen to pay attention to that and do that, and the other half out of laziness I don't. I also sometimes am guilty of putting a tire on backwards, directional tires. So like I do all the screw ups, and somehow I've lived to see another day.
And
What's that mark about? What's it mean?
it's generally the lightest. Well, it depends on the brand. I've
Depends on the brand. Could be light or heavy.
It's generally the lightest spot on most of them, and that's supposed to be mounted at the valve stem or the rim lock. Where the weight is. But it again, and when I say I don't balance any of my wheels, that's 100% A, out of laziness, and B, out of I'm changing tires a lot.
Yeah, you balance your Tenere is probably balanced, isn't it?
No,
it doesn't either.
no. It's balanced to start with. It has but no,
It has weights on it.
It has weights on it, so it kind of came balanced. So it's not because it doesn't have a rim lock. But
hey, and let me qualify when I say balance. Like I'm not pulling out any piece of equipment to do balancing. All I'm doing, and this is pretty lazy, all I do is I happen to know what a stock rear 215 rim lock weighs, or a Motion Pro or a Warp 9, and I happen to know what those weigh, and then I just counterbalance the 180 other side with that same amount of brass. And it is super unscientific, but again, as long as it doesn't
Gets you
annoy
close.
me, it's good enough.
Okay.
And so what are you using to balance? Are you sliding lead weights on the spokes? Are
I'm
you
sure
taping?
you can go to tacomoto.co and find out exactly what he's using. I'll bet you
Yeah,
there's
so we
brass,
we use
threaded little trick things you put on there, huh?
Yeah, we use Nomar. Nomar is an American company that makes these brass. They slip over the spoke nipple, and then they have a little locking bolt, a little grub screw, and we sell them in a little package that's based on whatever rim lock you have, whether it's stock or aftermarket, and so on. And then we've already weighed all that out, and so you can just simply do what I do. I just open our bag when I'm doing a wheel. I just observe what rim lock I have, and then I grab that bag of that particular one. I throw it 180 degrees on the other side, and call it good. That's completely. It's as lazy as that.
Hey, that's so brainless and lazy. I might be getting some of those to just offset a few of my wheels that I care about, the ones I want to be things. So, hey, hold on 1 second. Hey, we gotta do a little ad break here to make sure we're paying the bills. And Mike, can you stick around for after the ad break?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, we will be back in a few minutes here.
The defending champion, the all-new Yamaha YZ450F.
3 or 4 minutes or something.
Okay.
So we'll.
What's that link up there, I wonder? Is that John Amos doing the hand jive?
Wooden pistons, will it work or not? That's what it is. He actually in the chat.
That's pretty good.
Says he's going to search Facebook Marketplace for used dildos to put in his tire to see if
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or
Victor says he
text,
can hear
and
us,
it's
so I
like
guess
having
we're
a dirt
going
bike
out.
doctor
Oh, well.
on call every day of the year, helping you fix your
That's what he
bike or
says.
recommend
It doesn't
parts or setups for you.
surprise me.
If you've ever received an order from us, you know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come
Good.
with the coolest stickers that you've ever
No
had,
regrets here.
buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies.
Be quiet,
All of our
Mike.
Taco Moto co-branded components come with a no questions asked
I don't want to
lifetime
get
warranty,
embarrassed by a hot
and we'll
mic,
even
right?
extend out the warranty of other
apparently we
manufacturers,
got one.
OEM,
I'm
and
not
aftermarket
touching
parts
nothing
where we
'cause we'll
can,
screw up
sometimes
the
for
rest
life.
of the show.
We test and tune
Can you-
endlessly
hey,
and
Victor, can you
exhaustively and
hear,
obsessively.
Mike's
We're trying
ad
to
that's going
destroy
out, too?
everything that we can before you get your hands on it, to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer.
Couple of
And if it's
people.
something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we
Yeah, we're
carry is
ruined,
something that we have personally used, tested,
ruined
ridden,
the Taco Moto
and raced,
commercial.
and knows meets the
Damn
high
it.
Taco Touch demanding standard.
Go, spew
Go
it
out
off,
and
Mike.
get some adventure.
Let Mike go live.
Yeah, it's Garage 54. I just looked it up on the YouTube. It's the Russian dude who just makes these ridiculous automotive experiments. They're fascinating.
Damn show here in a second. There we go. Look at that.
Why bother?
Like a pro. Welcome back to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, Holmes. What's up? We do the cello whistle, but we only had like a day to practice today. So thanks a lot. Sorry we messed up on our sound, and you can listen to us the
Wait,
entire
includes
time.
me in that. I'm just sitting here.
The entire time during the commercial break, you could hear us. We're We got Taco Mike from Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co on the phone. If you need anything for almost any bike, especially KTM 500s, and if you want a KTM 500, don't listen to anything I say because I'm 0% influential about that bike. But
1%.
1%. Okay. Take my name off that list. KTM EXCs, Husky, FEs, actually any of the European, the gas, the Austrian bikes, they have all the different little trinkets and things. And we were just talking about wheel balancing. We went down a rabbit hole on that. And they even have a bag of wheel weights that'll offset whatever rim lock you have to make your wheel perfect. Right, Mike?
Taco Moto sauce.
Perfect enough. Perfect enough.
There you go.
Right. And we determined that since we're all lazy, it's just easy to do it like that. And Ashley says, no Bible study on Halloween so he can make it live.
Nice.
That's good. This is probably not a good counter to Bible
I
study.
got to tell you, and Victor's going to say some real funny shit later in the show, too. Anyway, let's read another
Okay,
one. How
questions.
about at Lean It 5756? I traded off my 890 Adventure R for a 24 Tenere. No regrets. Tenere is a fantastic bike. My only complaint is the foot pegs being way too short for stand-up riding. Wonder if he means short forward back or
He means
side
short,
out
he means
outwise. That's
width.
pretty easy to fix.
Well,
Either way.
I replied back to him because he watched our first Tenere test. We did complain about the foot peg width, and I said, "Hey, check out the vlog I got going." Like the first thing I did was put Fasst Company foot pegs on there, and those are the impact pegs, and they're actually they didn't even make them when I did this. I called Cole and said, "Hey, dude, there's a market for this thing. You need to make an adventure foot peg for the Tenere." And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because the foot pegs are kind of small, and in all ways, and they're like the stock ones. They come with the rubber pieces you can pull out, but they need to be wider, especially on the clutch side, because the clutch actually sticks out a little bit, and when you stand up and lean forward, your leg will touch the clutch and kind of pushes it out, and I want to step out. And on the stock bike, I step out and I miss the foot peg. So, yeah,
miss the shifter and brake, you mean?
No, miss the foot peg.
Oh, when you step out, okay. But you step out to miss the foot.
Because when I'm riding an adventure bike, I'm actually riding pretty feet out, because that's where I can get my leverage on the pegs, and stock pegs are usually narrow. So I got to sneeze.
Okay, WR450. Can you get the FMF slip-on without a tune, or do you need to tune it for the FMF? First, Taco Mike.
Well, I'm decidedly not a authoritative voice on the Yamahas, but
Hey,
any
Mike,
bike.
do you know that Yamaha is a major sponsor of this show? Tech Talk
Yeah, I
Taco
heard that.
Tuesday, brought to you by Yamaha. Blue Crew all the way. Okay,
Go Blue Crew, baby.
Keep going.
I've got a Yamaha in my garage. I got a T7 out there, which I have yet to really do a lot with and ride much, but I'm excited to put some time on it. So we got a Yamaha too.
Yeah,
Back to the questioning.
Best adventure bike ever. Just be really careful.
Gently.
Because you might not get invited back to the KTM Adventure Rider Rally if you start talking about how much you're going to like that Tenere.
So they'll be fine with that. In fact, there was so Bo from Ready to Ride, he's a guy down in Arizona who does bike tours and rentals. He brought a T7 with orange graphics and wore orange climb gear to try to blend in. It was absolutely classic.
But in the early days of the KTM Adventure Rider Rally, they actually were not that bummed out when you showed up on a BMW, which of course was the most people showed up on, or a Triumph or Ducati or whatever, or a KLR 650, because they understood at that time it was different. They understood that those people were coming into that rally because they had the demo truck there and they could ride a KTM and they could kind of see it. But now it's almost like toxic, because I went there last year and people were like, I heard you're riding a Tenere, and I'm like, yeah, I have one. I was still there. I was there on my 1090, but people are like, why don't you have a 790 or an 890? And I'm like, because I like the Tenere better. I mean, hey, it's choices, personal choices, man. That's
Those
why
are
they make-
opportunities. There's no new opportunities with the people that are already owning them in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're going to
the
get
new new stuff or
they,
whatever.
They might get a new one, but anyways, that's so. Back to the question.
Generally, then speak on this slip-on tuning.
For the WR,
Mike.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, back in the day, in carbureted days, when you would buy a bike, that muffler, the airflow out of that engine's an air pump, right? And so it's a calibrated amount of air in, through, and out, and all of that is calibrated to a certain amount of fuel density, and it was jetted accordingly. And so if you make any changes to your intake or exhaust, then you upset that pre-calibrated balance, and your air fuel ratio is now off. So on all of these single cylinder bikes, that's the case. To what extent that looks like on the Yamaha, I don't know. I'd probably defer over to Jimmy with your knowledge of the blue bikes.
so you can just, with the stock WR, you can slip an FMFQ on it and it's going to be fine. Is it optimum? Absolutely not. It's just like even this is probably one area where Mike and I talk a little bit about all the time, of just about like, you know, tuning the ECUs and do you need an ECU and what about the ECU? And I'm like, can you make a tune for this ECU? And I'm like, exactly what is going to be on that bike? I mean, almost down to what tires are you going to run? Because, you know, if you have everything affects, they all affect one thing or another. And like I said, it's kind of, for me, it's definitely from the air filter to the tip of the exhaust. And everything has to be in unison, and the ECU is what controls essentially all of that.
So don't those bikes have the app where you can tweak it a little?
So that's the cool thing about the Yamaha, but not on the WR.
No.
The WR comes with a locked ECU, so you need to buy.
Is it a plated bike then?
Nope. It's not plated, and you can't even buy it in California. It's just a
Is it-
loophole that Yamaha has fallen out of. Unfortunately, they can't get. They want to bring it in the way they want to bring it in, and California says no, because California wants evaporative emissions on a dirt bike, and that would cost a lot of money and it's complicated. But anyways, so if you have a WR, you can buy the competition ECU, which turns it into essentially an FX. It basically, the minute you put that ECU on there, it has the same tune as an FX. So it doesn't really work that well with the stock muffler. It really wants a more open muffler like the FMFQ. And you can go to, I've put the FX muffler straight on it, and it runs just like an FX. But I actually, WR, I want more tractability, more drivability, less sound. So I put the Q on it, and then I kind of play around with the map a little bit. You don't have to do much, but it definitely does. You can put it on, and you're going to get, let's say if you're going to get 50% of the performance increase, just putting the muffler on will do it. If you want the other 50%, you need the ECU to go along with it. And then you can get that extra 10% by starting to tune at that point to get the full 100.
Hey, here's a quick little aside. You were talking about the Q muffler, so specifically to the FMF. The 4.1 is basically their open, unrestricted, no resonator, straight through glass pack cherry bomb muffler. And you can get from FMF the Q insert. So you can effectively create with a 4.1. So a guy can get that really trick looking blue anodized look with the carbon fiber tip. You can as a separate part number, you can order the Q4 insert, throw it in there, and now you've got the sound output of a Q4 on that trick looking 4.1 factory replica muffler. There's
Right.
a little inside.
Get all that through you?
I don't know that we stock those inserts. You can get them from FMF. If you email us, we should have some, and we probably, having this conversation makes me think we should probably stock them.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a big fan of the Q, just the way that the Q adjusts the power band. Let's put it that way. And if we're just sliding on a Q muffler versus a 4.1. It does so much for tractability and drivability. It's almost, Mike, you're gonna, well, no, half the people hate me, It's the same as leaving your reeds in versus taking your reeds out on a very restricted KTM. It has, and I like the reeds in.
Yeah, me too.
Just for drivability, it has that same. The Q has that same kind of character. And the funny thing is, if you take your reeds out and put a Q on, it's almost like a net sort of. They sort of do the same sort of thing, because I think you're just sort of restricting the suddenness of the flow, like when you start turning the throttle, if that makes sense. There's a It just kind of tames maybe what you turned your wrist a certain way, and maybe you didn't want to get as much as you got, and the Q or the reeds can smooth that out for you.
Hey,
Yeah.
on the chats, it rolled by already, but somebody was asking Mike to start to look into tunes for the Cove people and an exhaust option. I don't know how many of those bikes are out there, but anyway, that was a suggestion. And then somebody else is asking thoughts on Ducati jumping into the dirt bike world. Jimmy?
Let's hit the Cove thing first. So I have no idea what ECU is on the Cove and how it works, but I promise you that if somebody decides to go down that avenue and learn how, what it plugs into, you could do a lot with that bike, especially the compliant one, the one
That's a pretty big investment to get into that deep, isn't it, for a specific bike like that?
Mike will tell you this, for the person that makes the actual the hard part of the ECU, the plug to get the wiring right and all of the baseline maps and data, that's not easy. And then start tuning it, then again, now we're just investing a lot of time to make it right.
Yeah. So the first to market will be piggyback tuners, because like with the Dobek EJK, essentially all it's looking at is the pulse width of the injector, and that's just a 2-wire connection, and the device itself has a preset algorithm in there, and it's just looking at duty cycle, and then it's extrapolating RPM, and then the fuel demand. And so that will be the first product to market. And there's no doubt that
those work really good as long as it's not a closed loop system.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
because that's where we ran into the problem with the KTMs. Because I was really happy with whether it was a Dobek, which is all of them, or a JD Jetting, or all the different people that were branding their tuner, their piggyback
that piece
tuner.
of hardware.
Yeah,
right. Dobek EJK is rebranded by a lot of guys.
Right. And once we went to closed loop, all of a sudden the bike starts fighting with it, for lack of a better term. It's like it makes the adjustment, and then the bike makes adjustment on top of it, and now we're not in a good place.
Right. So the Dobek EJK, no doubt, up there in Bozeman, Montana, those guys probably have a Cove, and in their Skunk Works lab, they're working through that. And there's no doubt that down here in Las Vegas, Dynajet, my buddy Dusty probably is working on getting a Cove, and then they're gonna do a Power Commander 6 for that. So it's easiest to do a piggyback. It is hardest to do a full replacement ECU, and that is probably not on the radar of Vortex or AIM or Athena yet, because when you get to the reality of making a full replacement ECU, that is a engineering project that you the sales numbers need to be there. It is very different with the Kaheen ECU, that is the exact same ECU that's in modern single cylinder Yamahas, KTM, Suzuki's, Cowies, Hondas. All of those bikes use that same Kaheen ECU. So that's why you have 3 competing replacement ECU manufacturers going for that market. The Cove, it could be a single source ECU, and it could be the same ECU out of like a Cherry automobile, the Cherry brand, or a scooter, or who knows what. Right. And if the potential sales throughput volume of that ECU is not. It's not attractive. Nobody's going to do it. So
Right.
the reality is,
it's just a will we, are we going to invest this much money in it? Are we going to make our money back in figuring this out? And that was one of the problems, like with the Christini, is it was I'm trying to think of the damn ECU that was in it that we were dealing with, trying to get the, the company ended up giving us their coding software so we could go in and start, doing modifications and stuff to it, because they just had this sort of baseline that it was so basic. It was like, this will make any motor run. How well, who knows? So yeah, I think a Cove could really respond to a piggyback tuner. So,
And are we sure that they didn't just use one of these other existing ones that are out there, and it's not what you've already hacked?
I didn't dive that deep into the bike. About as far as I got is clean the air filter and change the oil.
But the bikes aren't really out in any kind of mass production. People already want to make it go faster.
well, isn't that testosterone for you?
Yeah, it's all
That's
a
good.
different
I
thing.
understand.
Hey, so Mike, any more underwater moto kits? Because Victor needs to bring his Primo back from Tijuana.
The Haverford 2000. You saw that on our site? You lucky enough to surf into that?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, we've mentioned it a few times in the show. So
I wrote that as a obviously it's a joke.
Yes.
And I did that. There's two motivations behind that. One is I've drowned so many bikes in the ocean in Baja that I feel like I should have an underwater kit to prevent, all of these top ends that I ruin by drowning bikes in Mexico. And then the second kind of thing behind that is there's a restaurant in Vegas called the Omelet House. And if you've been there, they have a menu item. It's an omelet number 69. And it's this ridiculously described omelet with hundreds of ingredients. It's an absolute farce of a description. And so I just kind of combined those two things together and wrote that description for that underwater snorkel
it's
kit.
pretty pricey, right?
Yeah, I think we're asking $2,500 for it. So
Okay.
it's exclusive. It's
Right.
exclusive.
Yeah, because I'm looking at how many of the overland vehicles now come with the snorkels, so they can drive them up to windshield height water levels and stuff.
Sure, status of that, right?
And I'm pretty sure if you want to get deeper into the adventure/dual sport market, if you want to be cool, I can help you market this thing a little bit, because I'll run it. I just see the vacuum, the hose that goes from your I'm really familiar with this. I had to crawl over it underneath my house. The tubing that goes from your dryer out to the vent.
Dryer vent hose.
Dryer vent hose, yeah. You just have that, and it attaches to your back via Velcro, and then you have a thing that mounts on your helmet. So it's kind of a riding gear / motorcycle kit. And then you could go aqueous.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm gonna go ahead and email my patent attorney in the morning.
Okay, sounds good. I'll take 10% and be happy with that. About to the Ducati. People are asking about, what does Jimmy think about the Ducati? Was that the question, George? You were
scrolled
reading
past.
the
I'm
screen.
reading the next one.
Well, it says Ari the Ducati, past local dealer, made a 250-pound 450 MX in 1970. This is true. So Ducati entering into dirt bikes is nothing new. They made dirt bikes a long time ago. I have actually ridden one, because when I was at Cycle World Magazine, we did some sort of a story on the Ducati off-road bike. It was a scrambler, essentially. I think they were one of the early scramblers, competing with the likes of Triumph and BSA and whatnot. They made a lightweight one. So let's see. Google Ducati 450 MX boost shot, old school shop, CZ Mako. I would go drool there with no dollars and let me dream. Oh, okay. So something, what do I think about it? I'm amazed that both Triumph and Ducati have decided to get into motocross. And it's kind of, I think, just like any business, they have reached a certain place where you ask yourself, how can we expand? We need to make more money. Where's our growth? And then they look at different things. And if you want to talk about, eyeballs, it's Supercross. It's Supercross and to a lesser extent motocross, and especially in the United States. When you start looking at, the only other thing that even gets close to that would be Dakar. I mean, that's a once a year, all in sort of a thing. And you're a motorcycle brand, you want to go put your brand someplace. Whether you're going to do MotoGP would be number one. And then it's like, well, that's ridiculously expensive and out of touch, but where else could we go? And like Supercross, I think, becomes kind of appealing in a dollar, cost value. And then it's like, well, then we can sell dirt bikes as well. It's a slippery slope because we've seen BMW try to go down this avenue before. We've seen a lot of brands that have tried Gas, Husaberg, other companies like CCM, Vor, Vertimani, TM, and some of these companies are still around, but they've had tumultuous times trying to do this. And so I'm interested by these companies trying to get in. I think in my guess, it's easier now than ever because we have so much. You can go get all of these other machines to compare yourself to, or to say, hey, we have this technology that we think might make something better. And the Ducati's the one that's really interesting. I'll get to that in a minute. But we have all this technology, and we think we can make a 250cc four-stroke engine that's better than what we're seeing out there. Or we feel like we have some nose about how chassis handle or whatever, that maybe if we brought our knowledge from street or wherever it is into this arena, we could make stuff work. And you're seeing this also with electric bikes, like the Stark Varg, for instance. It's kind of the first one there where they said, hey, we're going full in on having the best componentry. It's not sort of it's this electric thing, so it's kind of weird or unique. They went in and they have real motocross guys riding their bike and real suspension components and all this stuff. So I think on the Ducati specifically, their valve control system, the Desmodronic valve control system, may allow them to do something that could be maybe as game-changing as when Yamaha spun the motor around backwards right after Husaberg did it, and some other people did it a long, long time ago. But there's things that it takes a new idea to bring it in. I think the Triumph is, we've seen the bike. I think it's going to be very standard, and I think they're just looking to put their name out into a different market and do some stuff. I don't know what they could do that would be significantly game changing in building motocross bikes.
I think the economy is going to play a big part on that. I think if they were tooled up and ready to go 3 years ago, they might make it, but it's going to be interesting for me to see what happens in this whole industry as we go into a deeper recession, as people have to go back to work, and because we really had an explosion of this whole adventure overlanding motorcycle, let's get outside, when we didn't have to go to work.
Yeah, but that I don't think
show up at work. I
don't think that affected at the highest level, like the racing level, where they're starting at, and they're hoping that kind of bleeds down. But here's the interesting thing: why are they getting into gas propulsion when electric is the new thing? And so something tells me that these companies have ambitions that are 10 years out. They're not.
You don't want to get me fired on the electric stuff now, Jimmy, because I'll go off on it.
I'll shock you with this. This is spooky. It's Halloween. So maybe these companies are actually, a couple of these companies, well, they've been around for a long time. They're not just startups. They're not new. Maybe they're thinking into the future. It's like, hey, the future is electric. We are going to go electric. Somehow we're going to have battery-powered, rechargeable bikes of all different kinds. And we need our brand to be established in a lot of different ways. So we're going to go show it at Supercross. We're going to show it at MotoGP or wherever we're going to do. And then when they come up with a kid's 50cc sized electric play bike that that comes along so they can get people onto two wheels, because ultimately they want to sell 100,000 urban mobility vehicles with the Triumph brand or the Ducati brand, worldwide. I think it's part of a marketing plan. And instead of looking at it like 5 years, that's why it surprises me they're going to gas. But right now, if you want to be in front of the eyes, you've got to make a gas motor. You've got to compete. You can't just jump into electric, but maybe in the future it's like, hey, let's do this for a little while.
So yeah, in 5 years, electric will fall flat on its face, and they'll be right there with some trick gas deal.
We're not really sure where that's going. I'm not poo-pooing or saying. I mean, I think there's definitely a market for electric. There's places where that stuff is way better than having gas. Especially when we talk about just mobility and things like that. And I think when it comes down to it, maybe, and Stark was really big at promoting, like, if we have this quiet vehicle that can do motocross without making a lot of noise, we're going to be able to access tracks that are getting closed down and do things. And maybe there at the track there would be a charging station so you could bring your bike there. You don't have to drag a generator along. There's so much more to it than I think that we're just looking at on the day-to-day average consumer side of things.
Okay, the studio audience is falling asleep, as I am, but I have glasses on so you can't see it.
You fell asleep?
Let's bring it back in.
And
Ducati. Okay, you answered that.
Yeah, I think that's
Let's
why.
go on to another question.
Wow, I went down the rabbit hole in that, didn't I?
Went down the toilet bowl.
Toilet. Thanks,
What's
George.
motocross without the smell of burnt gas and noise, Victor says. And he also says electric's doomed. But those are Victor Andrade predictions.
And George's as well.
Real ones.
I don't think it's doomed. I think it's just going to be another option. Yeah, Mike, what do you think?
I think that the dual sport market is the growth area in all of motorcycling. And so to have a viable brand, you need to have a product that crosses over into the light adventure dual sport market. The way you do that is you spend all your money developing a motocross product, which gets you all those eyeballs. And then so the first year Triumph's going to offer their motocross bike, and then the second or third year, then it'll be the dual sport bike. Plated bikes, green sticker bikes, those are going to come next. So motocross is essentially.
Have you specifically heard plated and green sticker?
They would be, of course they're doing that. No, I have not heard it from anybody.
Right. I haven't heard it officially.
I haven't heard from any reliable sources, but you just have to know that those guys would not invest the millions of dollars that they're going to do in a pure race
bike.
Just to make a race bike. There's no money in race bikes.
That's not the end.
That's not the end.
Right.
Their next big launch is their plated, 50 state and green sticker bikes.
They're making enduro bikes, and like KTM has shown, it's not that hard to convert it into a, dual sport bike, and then who goes from there. So okay,
that's the long game. That's the long game.
Yeah, I agree.
Jen Inc. says, hard to tell if it's a review or an ad without any critical thought. No perfect bike or product exists. This is on the T7.
No, he's talking about the WR450.
Oh yeah,
review.
okay. Sorry, we're on.
Yeah, so it's funny because I saw that and I'm like, did we say I don't think it was the perfect bike. I've never said that. In fact, if it was the perfect bike, you would not see a how to modify this bike video where I increased the fuel tank capacity, which required a different seat. And I added and before, like I would call it stage one, we did the competition ECU and the FMF muffler.
Was that the bike I was riding this weekend?
Yeah. It's a pretty good bike, yeah.
Anyway, Ashley.
It's not perfect.
Ashley Pierce, 3507 in New Zealand. The WR is street legal. I have a 23 WR 250F street legal. Great bike to learn the road on. I've had 16 dirt bikes. I'm into adventure touring now. From Ashley. So it's a statement, I guess.
Yeah.
And then at JDirt1982, he is making me feel very uncomfortable wearing a shirt.
Skirt? It says skirt. I thought it said shirt.
Skirt. That's on the WRs or something on that review.
Hey, Trevor hires his own test riders, man.
Okay.
I don't know what Trevor. Maybe it's his buddy, and they wear skirts these days. I don't know what the kids are doing. I try to stay out of it.
Caleb Ledford, 4146. Who got absolutely ejected at 509? Everyone loves that green bike. I haven't ridden the new platform, but I'm in love with the Yamaha. What was that referencing?
So Trevor cleaned out the entire first turn when we were doing some of the testing on the 450s, and it's in the video. So at 509 in the video of the stock 450s, Trevor, gets a whole shot, slows down a little too much, comes across everybody, and cleans everybody out. It's good.
Oh, wow.
Good times.
Okay.
I shot the footage. You know how when you shoot a really good video and you don't get credit for it, George?
Yeah, 3 million and how many views on the two-wheel drive adventure bike that I shot?
I think Jim shot that, actually.
Comment account 49. The one advantage in eastern rocky, rooty trails. With the heavy weight, you can run stiffer suspension because there's less deflection when you hit an unexpected obstacle or protrusion in the trail. You can really hammer through whoops that might upset a lighter bike with compromised suspension setup for rough terrain. When I got back into riding a few years back, I remember looking at this bike and thinking, who would buy this?
And he's talking about a Honda Sierra 450X.
Now that I'm older and more experienced, it's me. I'm the person this bike makes sense for. Honda CRF 450X. Okay, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't. I think his thinking is a little skewed. He says that because the bike's heavier, he can plow through things, or it's stiffer because it's heavier. So since it's heavier, they've made it stiffer. No, they made it the stiffness it needs to be to handle properly. I don't think it's necessarily stiffer because it's heavier. In fact, the 450X feels softer than the RX and the R. Just in general, because it is heavier. It actually makes the suspension move a little bit more. Plus, the suspension settings are set up lighter, more active. But I think he would be impressed with, like I said, he got back into riding. He'd be impressed with almost anything he got on at that point. And it's just, just experience.
Okay. Robin Henley, 7834. What did you change the swing arm pivot torque to?
On the CR450X, I don't know the specific numbers off the top of my head, but I want to say it's like 4 to 5 pounds less on the swing arm pivot than what is recommended. But that's how we.
So you loosen up the swing arm
to allow the chassis to flex a little bit more.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just about
so the first guy said
swing arm pivot resistance. It was about the whole chassis flexing.
The swing arm pivot. The tighter you tighten the swing arm pivot, it binds the chassis together. It doesn't allow it to flex. So it's you think about how it's an anchor point bolting the swing arm in there, and how much tighter it is. It actually would twist the frame as opposed to twist the bolt, as opposed to allow the swing arm to move just ever so slightly. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Did we lose Mike, or did he just stop moving stuff in his closet? Nope, I hear it again.
Yeah.
He's still moving
I'm here.
stuff. Okay.
I'm here.
He's still
Just
he's still
checking.
thinking about electric bikes. He's on.
Thought I heard you snore.
He's ready to start up
Mike's
electric taco moto.
He's going to go out and invest heavily in electric bikes, I'm sure, for his kid's future.
Okay, so how many Sur-on bikes do you see ripping around?
Hey, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about your. I want to talk about.
Okay, no, answer my question first.
I've seen them in my neighborhoods out here.
They're everywhere.
Once a week, I see one easily.
Okay.
Maybe twice a week.
Okay, I just want to tell you that they're everywhere, and in 5 years, when all these kids that are totally used to riding those things, no, not 5 years, in 20 years after they, have had a couple kids, and then the kids go off to college or whatever, and then they want to get back into it, then they go, well, I had an electric bike, I'm going to get another one.
Yeah, you know what those things are going to end up like? All those little red bikes you see in the big cities, those scooters, they're just going to litter your neighborhoods, litter
yeah.
your cities, and they're just going to become trash on the
Oh,
side of the
it's-
road.
I-
What do
yeah.
you think about that one, Victor? Chris Real's popping up on the chats too.
Right. Well,
with
he
words of
comes
wisdom.
from a very strange. So, okay, Mike, I'm on to your question now. What do we need to do?
Oh, well, I was just going to add that I've done that chassis, changing the
Torques.
engine hanger and the torques
Right.
on the new generation KTM enduro bikes, because the swing arm is per their literature 30% stiffer. They have a stiffer chassis, and when you ride the new 500 platform, it is a more accurate feeling bike. It turns quicker, sharper, more responsive. And so the attributes of a stiffer chassis are all there, and they're all easily detectable. And I like my enduro bikes to be noticeably more plush and softer than like a motocross bike. And so the Husky and KTM enduro bikes respond very well to so far in my tuning and experience, 10%. So I D-rated the swing arm bolt, the rear axle bolt, and then the engine, the 4 bolts that hold the engine. 2 are through bolts, and then the 2 engine hangers. All of those D-rated, 10% under book spec, and that's the sweet spot. That really, really made that chassis feel a lot like the older chassis, but just more comfortable, a little more plush, especially when you're sitting. And then I'm going to experiment when I turn that bike into more of a light adventure bike by loading it up with a big tank and Moscow bags and weight and camping and all of that. I'm going to experiment with them still derated at 10%. And I think that my theory is that bike's going to feel really soft and wallowy and Cadillac-y. And I think I'm going to then at that point put them back to factory spec. And I bet you it'll take all that away. So yet to be determined.
There we go. Solid advice. Hey, and I totally agree with you there. It's funny because something as simple is like putting a big tank and a one bigger countershaft sprocket can completely change like the way that a bike feels. Like you can take a KTM 500 and do what I just said. Big tank, 5-gallon tank, big countershaft sprocket, and it all of a sudden turns into like an XR 650. It just lazies the bike out to a certain extent. And it's and the other thing to play with is leaving the torque high on the lower front engine mount.
Just that one specific one.
Yeah. That like if you loosen them all, but if you
Is that a little too much, you think?
I've done some stuff where that one, if you keep that one in the front lower one tight, it allows it seems like that one, if you loosen everything, the bike can actually go from you can lose, like you said, precision. You can lose some of that chassis rigidity, but you also lose a lot of precision. But if you keep that lower one tight, sometimes that helps. But it really depends on the bike.
Okay,
I know.
that's a good tip. I'll go back and experiment, and I'll retighten that one to factory spec and see what that does.
Yep. So Victor says you can use the Suron motors to make wind generators. Then the grind fails from
The grid
the
fails.
grill fails from charging so many Teslas.
So when the
and
grid
Prius.
fails, we'll use all the
Surons.
Suron motors to make
I was
electricity.
just gonna actually tie children to ropes and have them run in like a spring cord. When they get scared of me, they run away and they generate power.
But in order
using-
to tie children up, you have to touch them. And what does that lead to?
We're not gonna make that joke in the show.
Okay. Asher Leto, 3801. I try your WD-40 tip.
I don't know what
I
that
try
tip
your
was.
WD-40 tip. The only thing is I can count the amount of times I wash my bike on one hand, and I have had it for almost 4 years. I think you might have been talking about cleaning bikes and some kind of mud caking on the bikes, and you mentioned WD-40.
So Jim said I
fenders
could
or
start my
something,
truck
I
with
don't know.
WD-40 today.
Did he? Did you really say that?
Yep. He's a wealth of knowledge. You went to the what was the show? Connex.
Because
show
he
with
didn't
them?
have any starting fluid, did he?
No, I had starting fluid. I had ether.
Okay, and we're talking about a gasoline Dodge Hemi truck.
Right. He said
Okay.
it would help out.
And did it?
We didn't use it. We had either.
Oh,
I have the sneezes again. I'm allergic to
Me?
Old English 800. You
Could be my gold medals, all my
you're cold. Yeah.
my plethora of medals and achievements in the room. Sitting next to me, you're just starstruck.
Documents with your name on them?
Yeah, my documents.
I should
support.
definitely be more starstruck by your presence here on this show. I really should tell everybody how nervous I am that I actually get to invite you in.
You
to
don't
the
know
show.
half of what I've done because when we're together, I don't talk about myself like you do.
Well, you never give me a chance. You want me to tell you a story, George?
No. Dave Donnelly. Oh, this back to the suspension high and speed. We're not going to read that. Barney Racing. Hello, Jimmy. I'm a listener of your Tech Talk Taco Tuesday and hear your sponsored plug for Taco Moto. Do you have a discount for them? Thank you in advance and for the good podcasts.
Mike, do you want to take that question? Because that was the first question we took on the show tonight, and George failed to pay attention like a good co-host would. But I don't really like to pick on my co-hosts because they're such awesome people that they intimidate me.
Well, it's
So I have
been
to-
like 2.5 hours since I read it the last time.
I have to be on tiptoes
Okay.
around here.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I explained that for you sponsoring this show, that's like a discount, and they should shop with companies like Takomoto that help promote a show like this, and companies like Yamaha, also Scott Sports. By the way, Scott Sports, this is the 6-day goggles. The ISD is going to start, I think, tomorrow, the next day, pretty soon. The Americans are down in Argentina, and you can get a Scott limited edition 6-day goggle with the amplified lens. Other sponsors, Climb. We talked about the F3 helmet. DDC, great chain wheels. Trail Tech, the Voyager Pro. We answered a lot of Voyager Pro questions for Jim this week.
hey, we should talk a little bit about what's the future of Rooster Endo. What are some of the ideas?
We're going to
Let's
get
talk
to that
with
in a
the
second.
audience.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to
Fasst
read all your
Company.
sponsors
Yeah,
again?
all the sponsors. Fasst Company Flex Handlebars. I have to. It's contractually obligated.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Bulletproof Designs. I need to talk to those guys because I need to do stage 3 on my WR450 because the bike's not perfect, but I'm going to make it that way, even though you weren't so impressed, I guess.
No, I was just listening to you. I thought, you know what? Maybe if I put a tooth on that counter sprocket, it would respond how I'd want. A little, just a little bit of that tame the low end.
Because that's the whole thing I've gone with that direction on that bike is I want it to be aggressive and peppy.
And I don't like that.
And that's why I don't put double take mirrors on that bike because that's not what they're for.
Going to slow it down.
They're for my KTMs. Okay, Mike. So how do you respond to the nice guy who wanted a discount?
I would tell them that, look, we're getting into November. That's Black Friday territory. I know that we're going to do some pretty attractive stuff around then. So just hang on. Wait
Barney.
till you just get a little later here in November, and you're gonna be able to take advantage of some.
And you know what I'd say?
depressing.
I'd say a lot of these companies out there are small businesses.
Yep.
A lot of them just came through COVID. And a lot of guys that ride, particularly a lot of guys that are in town right now for a ride, are cheap. And you know what? Step up to the plate, support some of these companies. Don't always ask for the bro deal. Just buy from them, support them. They're trying to feed their families and everything else. And, people like to feel good about deals, but make them feel good.
Is it like that I
So-
made you exclusive up on the screen there? Yeah.
Hey
Oh,
George, that's actually a really valid point, and I have this conversation with people all the time, and I say, look, if you I understand it's important to save money on parts, and there's only so much money that some riders have because they have jobs and families and competing interests for scarce financial resources. I get it, I totally understand that. There's also another counterpoint to that, and that is long-term support of the sport and keeping riding areas open and being and shopping with people who are ambassadors for the sport. For example, when you buy something from Amazon, I never ever see in Utah or Colorado or anywhere where I ride, where there are marked maintained trails, a sign that says this trail maintained by Amazon or Jeff Bezos or anybody associated with eBay or Alibaba. And so when a guy posts somewhere, he says, "Hey, I got this cool widget," that's often a clone ripoff of another small business's original idea.
Right.
I got such a good deal on that. I just kind of have to shake my head because, again, to make that point, often it's a Chinese clone of a legitimate product from a small business, and that's kind of point one. And then point two, never once have I seen eBay sponsor a race, a ride, a rally, an event, or a trail, whereas you have companies out there that do that. Like Moto does. We have a very active and vibrant outreach program. Rocky Mountain, I see them in Utah advocating for trails and spending money on trail advocacy. Slavens out of Colorado. There are a handful of companies that are ambassadors to the sport. They support riders, local riders. They do the right thing. Health of the sport.
I couldn't agree more. And when you can support this show by going through our Amazon links. I don't want you buying your motorcycle stuff there. I want you buying your big screen TVs, all the stuff you can't buy in the United States. Waterbed heaters. What else can you buy?
Buy some spoons there, or some plastic tumblers.
Yeah, all that stuff. Jerry's book, Jerry Bernard, our good friend Jerry Bernardo's book, is on Amazon also. I can move it over here. I forget which way to go. Since it's Halloween, this will give you bad dreams, so you should do that.
And there's a lot of small businesses that
a graveyard miss, by the way.
I'm sure use Amazon because they just have such a broad reach and a search. They use it, but my point is, don't always, call up and beat up these poor guys to save a couple of bucks on something. That you don't really need to have to.
The motorcycle industry is such a bro deal. I want to be sponsored sort of industry, and I mean it's always been that way. I remember when I was a kid, you always wanted to quote get sponsored. And you would get sponsored, and you'd get 10% or 20% off, and you start getting used to this, and then it's just out of habit. You almost ask for this sometimes, but then, it's a point where you think about what you're saving, and is it really worth it in the long run? If some company, because I've seen companies chase their tail trying to match some other sponsor or, gear companies that they would build sponsorship programs that initially were designed to get their gear out there, but it ended up costing them so much that their gear was out there, but then they couldn't afford to make any more gear.
I'm not saying never ask for a discount or a deal or whatever, but
pay attention. Pay attention
don't
to
feel
it.
obliged to
but
get it.
I always say support those that support your sport. I mean, when you have the opportunity, when there's a decision between A and B, and A supports your sport and B doesn't, think about that. Really, really think about that. And I'll just tell you straight up, the sponsors of this show, the people that help us out on this show specifically, and there's other podcasts and other things and other, racers that are sponsored by companies. If you like that racer and you want to get that what they're using, that's great. Use that, let the company know, because they're out there. They're really, the reason they're sponsoring, the reason they're doing different things is they're trying to get some promotion out of it, but sometimes they don't even know where it comes from.
That's a good thing, I think, and you can speak to this, I'm sure, Mike. I try and tell people, hey, I heard of you from this, or if I go to one business and they don't have something I'm looking for and they refer me over to another business, similar business, I go in and I say, hey, such and such a company just sent me over there. You probably got this part or something. And I think people appreciate that, and everything works better, and gives a poor guy an idea, who's reaching out to people, who's just a decent person, I guess. So.
Yeah, it definitely, like I said, it helps it kind of just helps everything go around. And there's people that'll just take advantage of everything, and there's other people that genuinely, want to support what they're. In this industry, I've been in this industry for a long time. I relate to the people that have been into it for a long time, generally because they love what they're doing. They love riding. They love the sport. They're passionate about it. And, I've seen people come in and like can get rich real quick, or they think they can, and then they realize like maybe I got in the wrong game. I don't know.
Well, and some do, and they leave a bad mark a lot of times.
Right.
Hey, Steve C. in the chats. Did we have a Steve in the class this weekend?
Obviously.
Yeah, great class this past weekend, guys. Thanks for all the help and knowledge. I'm still processing half of what I learned and can't wait to get back out and use some of it.
Awesome. Hey, Mike, I'm thinking about getting those wheel weights. Can I get a discount?
You want the bro deal? Is that what you're?
Yeah, so
Hey,
he explained the bro deal.
Do you know what a bro deal is?
I'd like to hear what your version of it is.
A bro deal is where both parties get completely screwed. Like hey, let's do a bro deal, and no matter what, you're both gonna come out. You think it's a good deal, but it's gonna make more work on the back end for both people. So at that point, I just go, I'll just pay full price. Like I don't want no bro deal. I'll get no problem.
Yeah, so we get people who ask every now and then for a deal, and I tend to think we don't price match. And if somebody has a huff and a puff over that and goes and buys it from somewhere else, I guess I'm okay with that. But I also would challenge in terms of like what we do for the riding community. I don't know of anybody else's who's putting my personal cell phone number is on our YouTube channel. It's all over the place, and I don't have a problem with somebody kind of almost 24/7 texting me, asking me a question to help with one of our products, or even I'm happy to help and support people with things that they didn't even get from us. Because to me, riding a motorcycle is a component of my mental health. And I really don't want to hear your personal problems. I don't want to be your therapist, but I'm quite happy to be your motorcycles therapist. And I feel that that's a duty and a responsibility that I have. And I take it quite seriously. And that costs money. Like that requires
time is money, and I mean people can be overbearing.
We're going off the rails here.
We're going off the rails because I'll tell you, like, the reason I do this show is for the exact reason he was just
you
talking
do
about.
the same thing, Jimmy. You do the same thing. That's why I like you so much, is because I feel like you have the same goal.
I limit my time to a couple hours a week. Like, don't try to call me Wednesday morning and ask me, hey, I heard you on the show and I was going to ask you this question. I'm like, we should ask it on the show. And that's George. George calls me on Wednesday morning and does that.
Well, you have the same, I think, goal in life.
Jimmy says, all this is in your manual. No, you guys are good. You're giving something back, and you're doing what you enjoy.
Hey, maybe when you get the text, that's the first one. It's like, are you sure this information isn't in your manual?
So if you're out there listening, everybody text Jimmy and Mike with a stupid question now.
Hey, when you got a good question, here's the cool thing about a good question, and Michael agreed with me, I'm pretty sure on this, is when you get a good question, you learn something. I learned something from it. I learned how to think about it differently, or I go, oh, that's interesting. And then on your side, you're thinking about like, hey, how can we, as a company, offer a solution for this, or a thing like the wheel weights. Like, we went down a deep dive on, at hour one of this show on counterbalancing your wheel, wheel weights. And it was something I didn't know you did, and now I know. And like, how did I start it? Like, I don't balance my wheels. Guess what I want to do now? I want to balance my stinking wheels because it's so easy. And because I know it helps, but I don't think it helps that much, but I know it helps. And like, well, every little bit helps. And then George told me I'm going to get more traction. And I'm like, I like traction. So.
Oh, I had a good fix for you, huh? You put that throttle, you changed that throttle on your Tanneray.
Yeah.
And I'm riding this thing around in class, and I go, there's like
extra slop in the line.
Yeah, slop in the line. And then I was kind of thinking about that through my head, depending on what the characteristics of that first little bit of slop could make a difference in taking that out of there or not.
You're right.
And yeah, you're open enough minded to listen to something like that out of my mouth and process it and go, okay, I kind of agree with you.
Well, you have a gold medal. It's up on my wall now. Is that staying here? Or are you going to take those back to your trophy
It's hard
cabinet?
to say. Everything I've dropped off here could leave at any time.
So, oh, hey, Taco Mike, you know what? We answered so many questions, and everything went off the rails so much. We have neglected Roosterendo yet another time.
But I think there's some exciting future in the Roosterendo thing we got to all talk about. You know, there may have to be some alternate prizes, some door 1, 2, or 3 choices where you may win big or you may get the wah, 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 wah. Or on the up end, you could get the what?
Well, Jimmy, whatever
hit
you have
the
in store
button.
for Roosterendo, I think it's going to be awesome, and I'm excited to hear. Hopefully, I hear about it just at the same time as everybody else.
Well, no, I'm gonna talk to you about it because we want to make sure it's good for our sponsors. It's got to be good for the audience. But I do really appreciate the support and that. It was kind of a last minute segment. I remember when I called you with it, and I'm like, "Hey, we want to do this." And you're like, "Yeah, I'm all in." And I'm like, I didn't even know if it was going to work, but it did work, and we'll keep it going. To the people that did send in submissions this week, I did get those submissions. They did come to me finally. And here's the one challenge. My email is not that hard to figure out, but they're going to have to come to my email. And if you can't figure it out, then you're not worthy enough to win the Roosterendo grand prize, which will be announced at a later date, probably the week after I get the T-shirts done. And not the Cholo style T-shirts that I'm running tonight. Hey, George. Hey, what's up?
I'm just embarrassed because I got Vans on, not the
Converse?
Converse.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my socks are all the way up to the knees, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I can do the squat and everything. I hold the wall up, all this stuff. But anyways, Mike, thanks for coming on. We will definitely keep in touch.
It's a joy and a delight, George. Fun talking to you.
Hey, Mike. Last time I saw you, I think you just crashed your Trail 90 at a KTM rally. You dropped it or something, didn't you?
Well, we were talking about people who don't bring KTMs to a KTM rally. I brought a 1981 Honda CT 110 to a KTM rally, and I rode it more than any KTM product the entire weekend.
Yeah. Got you around, though, didn't it?
Yeah. Hey,
style-
be brand ambidextrous. It's the best thing ever. That way you know what the best is because you've ridden it all.
Right, I agree.
So cool. Well, we will catch you out on the trail, and thanks for joining us.
All right, fellas. Thanks. Keep up the good work out
See you,
there.
Mike. Thanks.
Peace out.
Okay, that was Taco Moto's Mike Spurgeon. Like he said, he answers questions. I think it's crazy that he actually puts out his information as much as he does for answering questions. The reason I was attracted to Taco Moto and what he did was he was one of the first people in the KTM 500 world that actually put out what we call a white sheet that explained, if you want this, here is this and that. And I'm like, this guy's trying to sell stuff, and he put this sheet out that basically says, if you want this, you don't need this, you don't have to buy all this stuff. He'll sell all of the stuff to you because everybody thinks they need what they don't need. But if you're honest with yourself and you read his white sheet on this thing, you're going, wow, that makes perfect sense. And I was kind of surprised because at the same time, people were trying to sell us fuel lines with extra flow 90-degree valves in it, like it made a difference.
Because an electric fuel pump can't push enough fuel through
A 90-degree turn.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, at what RPM and at what flow rate is this becoming problematic?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, my flow rate is running a little bit low. Victor, did Victor say anything else bad in the chats that we need to know
I'm
about?
trying to think of what he said back there. He said something. He's still kind of obsessed with the splinters. But
The splinter, the
high
splinters?
shaft speed.
High shaft
Yeah.
speed on the wooden piston. And
Maybe you
splinters.
should wear a glove and you won't get splinters there, Victor.
I got a splinter the other day. I was like, before I went into the house, I had to dig the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a
Cheap tools. Fiberglass splinter, maybe.
No, it was actually wood. It's just an old, the old trusty shovel.
I might actually be here next week if you'll have me back.
No, I don't know about that.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
fine.
it could be a little rough.
Keep
2
me
weeks,
entertained
2
or
weeks in a row.
I'll be leaving.
Well, everybody, hey, thanks for joining and thanks for watching the show. You know that this is also available live if you're listening to it in the podcast format, where you can see George and my clown-like outfits, because it's pre-recorded. If you want a George sticker, should I give out your address or your phone number for that? No,
Nothing.
Okay, you can't.
You got to ask for a George sticker. You're not getting them.
You can't. You can ask and you can say no.
Yeah.
But if you have questions, if you're listening to this and you have questions, go ahead, find the YouTube video, find the Facebook video, comment on it. We rifle through all those, answer the questions, submit your Roosterendos because it's a big one coming up. And
got a class in about 10 days. There's still room. Sign up. Come get entertained by Jimmy, George.
Do you know how I can afford to do this show? It's because I have
a wife that has a job.
Oh, that's we weren't going to talk about that. But she'll come out and help at the next class, by the way. She's coming.
So she's up for it.
Yeah,
her friends are coming, right?
Yep. She's got some friends coming out. We do an off-road motorcycle school, www.jimmylewisoffroad.com. If you want to make yourself a better rider, I know all the answers that you seek.
Okay.
Am I true?
You'll give answers.
I'll answer any question that you have. You'll
have an answer.
I'll have an answer. It's like you're sitting in the studio, just like Jim is here tonight. You're sitting in the studio, but we're at the class, and you can ask me any motorcycle question that you need, and I'll answer it. And it's just like private Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, except you're going to be a better rider at the end of it.
Door number 3 might be a chance to sit where Jim's sitting for 2 hours and be part of the show.
Yeah. So, anyways,
hey, if you're riding in the desert this week, or just any time, be careful because it's changed. Things have changed out there with all the water.
Oh, you heard? Well, I heard that Joel rode every road and it's all better now.
Yeah, probably.
So
be careful.
There's actually a little noob riding event. I don't think this one is noob. It's just a Pahrump Rider Rally.
Yeah, it's on an Adventure Rider, and he's it's called the Pahrump Rally. It's a good thing. He collects money and gives it back.
Yeah, and he does give it back. He really does. Valley of the Dirt people, by the way, Pahrump. Welcome to Valley of the Dirt people. Sorry about the sound at the beginning of the show. I don't know what happened there, and I'm going to try to.
And the sound at the commercial break.
Oh well, that's
live mic stuff. That's hilarious.
You know what? Here's the. So everybody thinks I just pushed the button at the end of the show. No, I have to download and record things. And somehow there's a computer over here on this side that updated and it reset, and I don't know about any of these settings. Like, I'm busy like crawling underneath the house trying to figure out how to fit my belly through the mud that all the broken pipe. Did I tell you how much I liked crawling through the mud today?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
We digress. Look, they're checking out, Jimmy. They're dropping fast. You better just cut it off.
Great show. My clickers are full hard.
Live mic.
Okay. Yeah, we'll shut this show down and go live mic. But anyways, with that, everybody, we will. Hold on, I gotta put the thing. Hold on. We've been doing this for 200 shows, everybody. That's really important. This sound is one of my favorites, and we'll see you out in the trail. Cheers.
Don't say shit. It's probably still going out.
Oh, you're still live. Don't worry about it.